Europe is increasingly becoming a hub for the coke trade, and it is the port of Antwerp that remains its key entry point, with a new record of almost 90 tons seized in 2021. Huge sums of money are at stake, which may explain the traces left by some 30 attacks in Antwerp one summer of 2022 alone. But the problem does not stop at the port of Antwerp. The major cities are in danger of suffering the same fate.
As mayor of Brussels, I am concerned. What happens in Antwerp can happen in Brussels. What happens in Antwerp will not stop at the port of Antwerp.
Indeed, Brussels was the scene of 22 shootings in the first half of this year. The name of a commune has often come back to the front page.
De nouveaux échanges de tirs dans la commune de Molenbeek, ce n'est pas une première. Les autorités locales sont conscientes de ce problème.
But there is not only the infamous Molenbeek. Violence continues to increase, by extension, throughout Greater Brussels.
Il y a vraiment beaucoup de communes qui sont concernées. Il ne faut vraiment pas stigmatiser, ça n'a rien à voir.
Most of these facts are related to settlements of accounts, environmental, sale of drugs.
Entre janvier et juin, 22 fusillades ont été recensées sur toute la région. La grande majorité est liée au trafic de drogue.
However, isolated cases can appear, such as a revenge between two Albanians. Indeed, a shooting took place in June 2022 in downtown Brussels. Edion H. was shot 6 times in the back and taken to the hospital. One of the suspects, Noga K., was arrested shortly afterwards in Vienna, Austria. It appears that the two men have been quarrelling for 20 years. It all started when Noga, accompanied by Julian C., is believed to have killed Akif H., Arion's father. The retaliation will take place in 2002 in a cafe in Antwerp, when Arion and his brother Geron opened fire on Noga and his friend Julian. The latter is dead, Noga runs away, to come back and finish his revenge 2 decades later in the streets of Brussels. What is clear is that despite the struggles of local criminals, it is the international criminal organizations that have found refuge in Brussels.
The nature of the drug world has changed. We can certainly deal with small street dealers, but this goes much deeper.
We're in October 2021. At dawn, around 5 a.m., 1,100 men of special units and police forces are deployed in various parts of the city and its surroundings. 114 searches were carried out, with the main objective of dismantling an international network that was distributing drugs from Belgium to all of Europe. 64 people were arrested, mainly Albanians, but also some Colombian chemists.
This shows that there are drug criminals in our territory who come directly from Latin America. We always thought the narcos were in Latin America, but they're also here.
The in-depth investigation lasted more than 1,300 days, more than 3.5 years. Thanks to the clues provided through the interception of encrypted communications, such as EncroChat or Sky ECC, it was possible to strike hard at this Albanian network, confiscating luxury cars, money, and discovering 6 extraction laboratories.
This group of criminals, largely based in Brussels, is responsible for receiving the cocaine, extracting it, and repackaging it in Belgian laboratories. After this operation, the couriers take care of the distribution in the rest of Europe.
The authorities assume that at least 1 ton of coke was coming out of the Brussels laboratories every week.
We are discovering a new criminal world throughout the Brussels territory that until now managed to remain largely unnoticed.
But Brussels, which plays the role of a logistical hub for the European drug market, is not only under the control of Albanian clans. Indeed, they would have worked in an alliance with the Italian Mafia, Calabrian and 'Ndrangheta, which remained in the shadows during the operation. Moreover, the suspects also include members of the Mocro Maffia. In short, the network functioned as a crime syndicate with different partners and subcontractors, depending on the needs. And in contrast to what is said in the press about turf battles in Brussels, it appears that the biggest godfathers do collaborate, regardless of their nationality.
Ce n'est pas une seule mafia qui dirige tout de A à Z. Non, c'est aujourd'hui plus complexe. C'est une association entre mafias avec chacun sa spécialité. Par exemple, une mafia italienne qui achète la drogue dans les pays sources, une mafia albanophone qui récupère les cargaisons au port d'Anvers, des Colombiens qui transforment la cocaïne ici en Europe, et puis des personnes qui aident à blanchir l'argent.
It appears that among those arrested, there was also Abdelwahab G, of Algerian origin. The 55-year-old man had been a thorn in the side of justice for many years with his numerous acquittals. First, a drug case when his gang flew 4 tons of white from Colombia. During the proceedings, it came to light that a wiretap had been illegally installed, which made the prosecution inadmissible. In addition, Abdelwahab was convicted in Italy in another drug trafficking case. He was released after 2 years of detention due to a procedural defect. It is surely that there he began to create his close ties with the Italian mafia. Now, thanks to the Sky ECC operation, there is enough evidence to implicate him. But the story doesn't end there. The network would also have a few murders on its conscience.
There are videos of people being decapitated and bodies being dismembered. In terms of horror, the group is not inferior to the Islamic State group in Syria.
Thanks to the decrypted cryptophones, at least 8 murders were committed, including one in Belgium. On November 27, 2020, an Albanian, Ardit S., was riddled with at least 8 bullets in Molenbeek, St. Jean, and this liquidation would be part of a quarrel between 2 family clans, which compete for the control of drug trafficking in several European cities, including Brussels and its suburbs. This even resulted in a dozen reprisals at the source in Albania. Indeed, Ardit S. is Aryan Spahiu, who is part of the Albanian clan managed by his brother-in-law Erjan Alibey under the pseudonym Krimi. The latter is said to be at war with another clan, led by brothers, one of whom is Haidor B, known as Chopia. These 2 protagonists faced each other to eliminate themselves, sparing nothing of their own financial reserves, amassed thanks to the coke traffic. And the man who was suspected of the liquidations carried out in Belgium is indeed one of the most dangerous assassins in Albania, Nuruddin Dumani. The latter confessed that he had contacts with these 2 rival groups in the city of Elbasan in central Albania, until a reversal of the situation that caused Nuruddin to choose sides. Indeed, Nuruddin was a close friend of another well-known hitman, Talo Cella.
In 2019, after I was released from prison, I had a conflict with Talo Cella.
Nuruddin, who felt used by Talo in a liquidation deal, decided to go his own way among the underworld. And since Talo was a Chopia soldier, the choice to join the Krimi seemed the most logical.
Aryan Spahiu, who was killed in Belgium, was on the list to be executed by the Chopia brothers, who are the financiers. Talo Cella told me that if I carried out the murder of Aryan Spahiu, he would give me 300,000 euros.
However, Nuruddin passed on every piece of information he received concerning the contracts placed on the heads of the members of the Krimi group directly to Aryan Spahiu. It was a way to check his loyalty to his new team. Nuruddin would have even received the offer of about 2 million euros to blow up a palace where Alibey was. He had also passed this information to Aryan. Finally, Aryan, who was convinced of Nuruddin's sincerity, asked Nuruddin to cooperate and join forces, facing a common opponent. Nuruddin received a purge plan with a list of names involved in the various murders committed on Ali Bey's team. He even ordered the assassination of Tallo's brother in September 2020. However, this would have been done in pure revenge, as Nuruddin suspected Tallo of being behind a murder committed on a friend a few days before. 2 months after this elimination, Aryan will be liquidated in Brussels. In the end, Nuruddin's former bosses would not go quietly, for when Tallo learned of the plan for the next assassination, Nuruddin was ambushed on March 29, 2022. A BMW X5 was shot more than 20 times, but the hitman Nuruddin miraculously survived. The latter will be arrested the same day while being treated for his injuries. And that is why Nuruddin has been linked to the murder of Molenbeek Saint-Jean, since it is the same war.
We already knew that the port of Antwerp is the biggest port for importing cocaine, but now we clearly see that the Mafia is active throughout the country and is expanding its activities to Brussels.
These words will make even more sense when a new police raid takes place in February 2022, once again against an Albanian organisation. 49 houses were searched, 30 of them in the Brussels area alone.
Aujourd'hui, ce qui était visé, c'était surtout le démantèlement d'un réseau. Ce sont des mafias qui viennent de l'Est, mais qui ont des contacts importants avec l'Amérique du Sud et aussi avec les mafias du Sud de l'Europe.
This operation was part of a much larger investigation involving several countries, including Spain, Belgium, and Germany, the three most targeted. The investigation was initiated around 2017 in Spain, thanks to a tip from the US anti-drug agency DEA, which looked into a group that was importing drugs from Colombia to Catalonia. Interest in the trail increased in 2020 with the discovery of large quantities of chemicals in Belgium, which would have once again acted as a European distribution centre. Nevertheless, it is in Spain that the important profits have been invested. The operation was named Casino Fantauxia. A key figure would be Bashkim Osmani, a well-known businessman from Germany. He was arrested in Croatia before being extradited to Mallorca, the epicenter of this network, with 35 million euros laundered via real estate and various investments. Not to mention that 86 works of art were seized during a raid on Osmani's villa. This organization is said to have close ties to Hamburg's Mafia clans. This may explain why investigators searched several apartments in this city as Osmani had grown up there. Osmani's family moved to Hamburg in the 1970s, and from there he became very wealthy. The authorities never managed to find anything illegal in their empire, estimated at 100 million euros, apart from a conviction for breach of trust in 2008. Osmani's success is largely due to his brilliant agenda.
I would never have been so successful if I hadn't had such a good relationship with German politics.
The latter had bought the buildings of an entire street in Hamburg directly from the German state and had renovated more than 200 apartments.
I was lucky. Real estate prices went up 15 to 20% in the next 2 years.
But his luck will not last forever when, in the operation, now worldwide, Casino Fantauxia, even the FBI sent their agents on the ground. This is not surprising, given that Mallorca was a hotspot for criminals. In fact, at least 10 meetings took place there in 5 years, bringing together various underworld personalities linked to the Italian Mafia and the Balkans. The purpose of his meetings would be to divide the European territories between the different clans. As for the alleged boss Osmani, He was released in June 2022 under certain conditions after paying a bail of €400,000. Back to Belgium. The increasing violence is now attributed to the panic of drug dealers.
We suspect that shipments are going missing, that the hierarchical relationships in these organizations are changing, and that their members are panicking, which has led to an increase in the number of incidents.
It remains to be seen in which direction the situation in Brussels will develop in the years to come.